Alrighty, All Facts Media. I'm Aaron Robinson here with my twin brother, Andrew Robinson. And today we are joined by the newest Alabama commit, Jordan Bruner. Jordan, thanks for joining us today.
What's going on? What's going on?
Not much, man. So we'll go ahead and hop right into it. Well, obviously, you had, a crazy recruiting process where you had, I spoke to you a couple weeks ago. You said you had over 50 schools that reached out to you throughout the process. So, what made you so confident, that Alabama was the place for you to be?
When you cut down from 50 schools, there's bound to be, at least a few good options. I felt comfortable with all three schools. I had Baylor, Maryland, and Alabama left. I had good relationships with all the head coaches. Shout out to all those guys. I think they're all going to play well. But, most to keep it a buck with you, most of it was just me praying about it. At the end of the day, I just prayed about it, and I felt comfortable with the situation I was going to and the vision that Coach Oates had.
Right. And, obviously, Alabama's been stockpiling talent recently. Obviously, you guys bringing in yourself. You have a lot of 4-star guys, 5-star guys that are coming in next year. Obviously, you have Javon Kennedy going to be eligible next year. So and you mentioned also Nate Oates' vision. So, what exactly is Nate Oates' vision for the program, and where do you see Alabama basketball being next year?
He has a very advanced concept of how to play basketball. He plays 5 out. He watches a lot of NBA stuff, a lot of NBA actions. He walked me through a lot of it, and a lot of it's really hard to guard. I think somebody like myself could go in and take advantage of a lot of mistakes that teams will make that are trying to guard certain actions. And I think that on defense, we have enough length and enough talent this year to where, we'll be able to guard well. But yeah, he just, he studies his craft, man. He puts a lot of work into it, and I could respect that for sure.
For those of you who don't know, kind of describe, your game, and then, how you think your game will complement and fit into what Alabama's doing next season.
Oh man, and the thing was, the reason it made it so tough was that I can do everything. So I can do everything well. So it's like any program that was hitting me up, I was gonna fit because I could do anything that they needed me to do. I probably pass the ball the best. That's probably the best thing I do. I'm probably one of the best passing people in the country, in my opinion. I shoot it well, I rebound, I guard, block shots, like whatever the case may be. So, Coach Oates really needs me to come in and facilitate and make other people's jobs easier. He needs me to put the ball in the bucket and, come in and make them a better defensive team. Just try to lead, try to change the culture a little bit and make sure that we come in, expecting to go to a Final Four, honestly.
That's big time, man. You just put some high expectations on yourself in the program, talking about the Final Four, obviously. But it's been a trend. SEC basketball is kind of trending upward recently. Obviously, we saw South Carolina make it to the Final Four a couple years ago with Frank Martin. Obviously, Auburn was in the Final Four just last year out of the SEC. You mentioned that you see your guys making a run to the Final Four as well. Kind of talk about just, the progression of kind of SEC basketball. Obviously, you're going to be at Alabama, which is perceived to be a football school. The SEC is largely a football conference. But kind of talk about the progression of that conference and, why you think the SEC has been able to kind of be able to make it to the pinnacle of college basketball.
To be honest, I didn't really keep up too much with the SEC this year. I kind of be locked into whatever we're doing. But in terms of being considered a football school, people can say what they want to, but I mean, Yale's not considered a sports school; it's considered an academic school, and we beat high major teams, and we would have won some games in the tournament and things like that. So just because there's a certain stigma about it don't really change the fact when we come out, we're gonna win games. And you can call us a football school at the end of the day, but we still won games. So that don't really matter much to me.
Now, what are your personal goals basketball wise? Where do you see yourself playing? A year from now today, or what do you hope to gain from this year at Alabama?
The whole point of this is to make my draft stock go up. The whole thing about me was, people saw what I can do and knew that I can do a lot of things, but I guess a lot of NBA teams were curious about, how I would perform against teams with better talent night in and night out. So I'm just going in to kind of prove a point. I did it against everybody this year that we played. I didn't really have any trouble, but if they want to see me continuously do it for 20 games straight against SEC teams, like I can do that. That's cool.
All right. So just to clarify, I mean, you were a guy that tested the draft process this spring. You had mentioned that you were going to be looking into potentially pursuing pro options. You recently committed to Alabama. So does this mean that you are going to be playing college basketball next season?
Yeah, I'll be back in college next year.
Great. And kind of for you, what was it like going through that process, testing the NBA draft waters, looking at professional options, and then electing to finally come back to college? Like, what was that process like? Kind of walk us through your whole mentality of kind of how you came to that choice.
I mean, well, the thing about it was there was no process. Like, that was the whole issue, because if I would have had a process, I feel like I would have got drafted. So it was like, because the Portsmouth Invitational got canceled, summer workouts got canceled, like there were no 3-on-3, no senior all-star game, like none of that was happening. So my level of exposure went down a whole lot because of that. And so it was like, my decision to go in was with the hopes of going through the process. And now there's no process, so it's like, okay, that hurts me. So now it seems like going back to school is the best way for me to increase my exposure.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, like you mentioned just now, the coronavirus kind of put a stop to a lot of seniors, or juniors, even sophomores that entered a lot of underclassmen that entered the draft, this spring, that are planning to, go through this process. But like you said, there is no process, and you personally have like to go back to school. But I guess, do you think that that'll be a trend? I guess with other people, that's in the same position as yourself, with the opportunity to potentially go back to school or go back to the draft. Do you think that a lot of other players, if you talk to Andy, or in your own opinion, will do the same thing that you did and go back to school?
I think so. I think that's the best way to go about it, because most guys that aren't high on the draft boards, the confidence that guys have in themselves, they feel like they're going to come into workouts and perform well, and their draft stock's going to go up too. And so, going in without those things and hearing that they're going to be drafted late or maybe not at all, like that's going to shake some dudes up. So it's going to be like the best option may just be to go back to school and show what you can do for another year.
Right. You're a unique player in that, you were highly recruited out of high school. You had a lot of high major offers. You elected to go to Yale and play in the Ivy League. Obviously, we've seen players like Bryce Aiken and Seth Towns do the same thing at Harvard. You guys just had a player last year from Yale get drafted into the NBA. So, I mean, Ivy League basketball is on the rise, and there's a talent level in the Ivy League that really isn't seen anywhere else. Kind of speak to the perception of the Ivy League as, like you mentioned before, being more of an academic conference, but obviously the level of basketball has obviously increased there over the past couple of years. I mean, what is your idea on that? And, just how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it is. I think people, people say things like that because they just don't watch. I mean, like they just say what they hear other people say, or whatever other people's opinions are. They just kind of go off of that. But most definitely, I think schools are starting to get more talented kids. I think this year might have been a little bit of a down year. Honestly, a lot of guys were hurt too. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely becoming a better league. Like I said, this year was a down year. Multiple teams lost their best players this year. But the year before, like a lot of teams were beating mid and like stronger mid-major teams than a lot of high-major teams. So, I mean, the numbers will kind of speak for themselves.
Right.
And my last question for you would be, 5 years from now, where do you hope to be in your basketball journey?
Hopefully on my second contract in the league. Hopefully. I mean, but whatever God's plan is, that's what's going to happen. And I'm not really worried about it too much.
Well, man, you heard it first, man. First of all, I want to thank you for coming on today and interviewing with us. We wish you the best of luck next year at Alabama. Roll Tide.
For sure. Appreciate y'all.
No doubt.
Thank you.